This week I saw an interesting beef stew recipe and I wanted to try it out for myself. We're going to start by chopping up 2.5 pounds of peeled sweet potatoes. Cutting sweet potatoes is always a chore, but I found it best to chop them in half so they aren't so big. Then chop them in half again so I have a flat edge. Then, depending on the size, I'll cut it in half one more time and then chop it into chunks. For bigger potatoes, I'll chop those into slices, then I chop them into cubes about an inch on either side. That'll help them soften up later and make them a nice bite size. Toss those in a bowl of water for now to preserve the color, then we'll move over and start chopping up 2 large yellow onions. I originally used sweet onions for this, but I think it ended up being way too sweet, so I'd recommend using yellow onions for this instead. Whenever I'm chopping up an onion, I tend to use our usual quick method for that. If you want to find out how to do that, you can click the link above and see the full detailed version on our beef rigatoni video. We want our onion to be about the same size as the potato. Toss that in a mixing bowl, separate the layers if you want to, and then set that aside for now. Now we'll prep 24 ounces of rinsed green beans by slicing off the ends, then cutting them into about an inch piece. Some of mine were closer to 2 inches or so, but that's okay. We'll throw a couple packages of Midamar's Halal beef stew meat into a large Dutch oven. Now we'll hit it with a little bit of salt and pepper, around half a teaspoon each. Add a little bit of olive oil, give that a little mixing, and brown the beef. Once that's all browned up, we'll remove the meat to a mixing bowl, add in the onions and the sweet potato, then we'll cook that for 10 to 15 minutes over medium to medium-low heat. Stir that occasionally. In the meantime, we'll puree 2 14.5 ounce cans of stewed tomatoes. These are slightly different than regular whole canned tomatoes. They're stewed with some peppers and garlic for seasoning, but that said, if you can't find them at the store, regular canned tomatoes with a couple cloves of garlic would work just as well. Once that's good and pureed, we'll add in the cooked veggies, add in the beef along with its accumulated juices, the green beans, 4 cups of halal beef stock, then mix it all up. Top with 2 big old sprigs of rosemary and 5 sprigs of thyme. Bring that to a boil, then lower the heat and let it simmer for 20 minutes. Remove the top, take out the thyme and rosemary, mix it up, add the thyme and rosemary back to the pot, and simmer for 20 more minutes. Now that everything's had time to bubble up, take the sprigs of thyme and rosemary out of the stew, add in 2 bags of Sno Pac organic corn available at midamarhalal.com. This next part is optional and a great way to mix up the flavor profile. It's a little crazy, but we're going to add in 3 tablespoons of cold coffee and 2 ounces of bittersweet chocolate. This added some unique sweetness to an ordinarily savory dish. If you want a slight change to the classic beef stew formula, just stick with the sweet potato. Lastly, we'll hit the stew with some salt and pepper, mix it all up, give it a taste for seasoning, serve it with some bread, and enjoy!